Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Venus retrograde. Now, what is a Venus retrograde? A Venus retrograde is when a planet seems to be moving backwards in the sky from the point of the earth, and we're getting to experience that energy more internally. We're more tapping into our own intuition with that energy and really kind of going inwards to see what does this energy really mean to us. Now with Venus, that energy very much has to do with relationships, what we value, who we value, how much we value ourselves, and it has to do with love, with money, with our possessions, what we have, what we don't have, and so on. So we're really getting a chance during the Venus retrograde to reassess what all this means to us, and where are some areas in our lives where we need to make some adjustments. Now, Venus is also about the talents that we bring into this world and the enjoyment that we have by bringing these talents into this world. So when Venus goes retrograde, we're also getting a chance to kind of check in and see, like, are we tapping into our natural talents, and are we actually enjoying sharing these talents with other people? And are we really, do we know what these talents actually are? Or have we suppressed these talents, or have we ignored that we have certain talents because of certain conditionings, or because of, society, or our upbringing, our peers that we grow up with, right? So this is a time where we really get to go within and tap into what's in our heart. What is our soul wanting to express? What is it? What are the talents that we really want to bring into the world and share with a complete enjoyment? So this is really a great time, I think, to explore these things. Now, another thing with Venus retrograde is that before Venus goes retrograde, there is a time that's called the Venus station. And the Venus station has to do with Venus, the planet, is slowing down and coming to a halt right before it starts moving backwards. So when it slows down, during that time that it slows down, uh, that's what we call the station. And during the station, we're really getting to see what is it in our lives that needs our attention when it comes to the Venus energy. So we're getting something will be in our face around money, around finances, around relationships, around what we have, what we possess, and also, how much we value ourselves. So all these things are sort of like going to come into our awareness during that time. Now, so it's really good to kind of be very present during the Venus station and see what are these things that we need to kind of look at and work through. Now, the Venus station is not a time where we can actually do something about it yet. So we're going to have to wait until Venus goes retrograde, where we can really go within and kind of draw upon some of these values and talents that are within us, so we can see what they really are. And then when Venus goes direct again, then we're getting a chance to really work through it and make some changes, and implement some of the things that we have explored during the Venus retrograde. So this is sort of like it's a process. Whenever a planet goes retrograde, it's sort of a process that we need to experience. So it starts with a shadow phase, then it goes into the station, then it goes into the retrograde, and then it goes into the shadow phase again. And all these phases are connected to each other so that we can really tap into what it is that needs revisiting and that needs reassessing, and so we can then move forward more powerfully and with a deeper, more truthful connection to who we really are, and what really brings us joy in life. So it's a really great process, actually. Now, of course, sometimes it also means that we need to be a little bit patient, because things might not be moving forward as fast as we want them to during that time. But this process is really valuable and really important, so that we can come out at the other end stronger and more grounded in our own truth, and what's really important to us and what's really in our heart. So let's talk a little bit about this particular Venus retrograde, which will start on March 15th, 2012, and which will go until June 27th of 2012. And it will, the Venus retrograde starts with 24 degrees of Gemini and then moves to 7 degrees of Gemini. Now, this particular Venus retrograde, because it takes place in Gemini, it's all about our thinking process, and it's all about our communication and how we share what we value and what talents we have. So this will give us a chance to really go within and kind of rethink if some of the things that are actually going on in our inner dialogue are really serving us and really helping us to connect deeper to our own inner values and to our relationships, and have better relationships as well. So we need to kind of reassess our thinking process around that and what we're communicating and how we're sharing, right? So these are all really important things during the Venus retrograde in Gemini. Now the Venus station with this Venus retrograde is going to happen from May 8th until the May 22nd. And that's when the planet is going to slow down and we're going to really feel something be in our face around that time, around these issues, these Venus issues, relationships, love, money, finances, what we value. So pay real good attention during that time between May 8th and 22nd and see what that may be for you in your life and what needs to be, tapped into during the Venus retrograde. Now the Venus shadow will happen April 11th until May 15th of 2012. And then again at the end of the retrograde phase, after it's gone direct again, from June 27th until July 31st of 2012. And so the shadow phases are really a way for us to kind of know that this is the time where this whole Venus retrograde thing needs to be looked at. This whole time is sort of like, that's the process. That's where the process starts on April 11th and the process ends on July 31st, right? And it goes through all these different phases. So what are some of the questions that you can ask yourself for this Venus retrograde? One of the things you can ask yourself is, how do you think about money? How do you think about love? And how do you think about life in general? And maybe there are some changes in your thinking process that you may want to implement so that you can really be more in touch with what your heart and what your soul is wanting you to explore around these areas. And then the other thing you can also ask yourself, what is it that you have undervalued within yourself? What are you thinking about inside of yourself that you're not giving the right value? What are some of the talents inside of you that you're sort of like dismissing and saying, like, this is, that's silly, that's not really what I'm talented at, right? But maybe, when you were a kid or when you were little, it was something that you were really good at and it was something that you really enjoyed doing. So really check in and ask yourself about that. And then the other thing too is, what is it in your life that you're maybe overvaluing? What are you giving too much value? Where are you saying like, oh, this is so important to me. Without this, I can't live without it. And then maybe you can reassess that as well and see maybe it's not so. Maybe you could live without it. So these are the kind of questions you can ask yourself. And you're really going to get a chance to see what matters to you during this time. So really pay attention to your inner dialogue, really pay attention to your intuition, and really pay attention to your inner process during this time. Now, another thing that may happen during a Venus retrograde that might be really nice is that we may reconnect to people from our past that we've had relationships with in the past. People may come back into our lives that, where we may need to have a conversation again. We may need to reconnect with certain people so that we can, resolve something that has happened in the past. And maybe there's, issues around our own self-worth that may come up during that time that we may need to reassess and relook at and think like, well, maybe this was not what I thought it was. Maybe that does not mean that I am less than. Maybe it just means, this is what happened and that's what happened, and it has nothing to do with my own self-worth. So some of these things, are just things that we might be able to look at and take into the loop and see, how can we connect in a more authentic way to ourselves, and in a way that we feel really good about ourselves. So, if you want to know, where in your chart this Venus retrograde is taking place, what area of your life is most affected by it, if there's personal planets that are being connected to this Venus retrograde, all this could influence your own personal experience of how you are going through this retrograde phase. Please feel free to reach out and ask me for a reading. My email is Sonja, that's Sonja, at astrologercoach.com. And I offer natal chart readings, solar return readings, couples readings. By the way, couples readings might be a really great thing to do during the Venus retrograde, just to reassess and think about what it is that in your relationship needs relooking, or what do you need to work through in your relationships. But also, for yourself, if you have just one question around something, where it takes place in your chart, I can do a mini reading for you, which only lasts 25 minutes. And the fee for that is $45. So it's a lot less than one of the full readings that I offer. But feel free to explore what at your time, in your time right now, is important for you, and what you need to look into for yourself. And just reach out and just check in with me, what's the best fit for you. And as always, please feel free to read my weekly blogs. I really want to emphasize that these are a great way, a great tool to have a little bit more ease and flow in your life throughout the week, to know what's coming up next, what are the energies. So if you want to subscribe to my weekly blogs, you can go to www.astrologercoach.com/blog, and there's a little window there on that site, through FeedBurner, where you can just put your email address, and then you get, on every Sunday evening, you get an email sent to you directly with the new weekly blog that's coming up in that week. And you get to see what's coming up next, astrologically speaking and energetically speaking. So have a fantastic Venus retrograde, and I hope to be in touch. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. And be well, and check in with your own values and your own talents, and what it is that you want to share with the world. And have a really good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.